give it a round of applause. Really great trailer, really great series. I suggest you all watch it. You can find it on YouTube. I want to introduce the late, great Adrian Grenier, who's a little later than I expected today.
Touche.
As an investor, Adrian has backed companies and entrepreneurs that he believes can change the world for the better. He and Bob Manuzzi run Contra Ventures, where they invest and empower founders and investors by creating systems and tools to amplify the positive benefits of their work together. It's really a revolutionary way of thinking of how investment and finance can work together in the food sector and other verticals, and we'll get into more of that later. As an activist and advocate, Adrian has founded the Lonely Whale Foundation. It's dedicated to bringing people closer to the world's oceans through education and awareness, inspiring empathy and action for ocean health and the well-being of marine wildlife. Adrian is also a UN ambassador, where he helped the UN Environment Program launch their Clean Seas project, and he is the creator of the documentary series Earthspeed, which we just saw the trailer of, where he tells stories of inspiring founders who are looking to solve real-world problems. And so I'm so excited that you could be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So I want to get into this really incredible journey that you've taken from being, an incredible Hollywood star, and now you're a farmer and an investor and doing all of these really different things, and how you started your career.
Thank you. Well, before we start, can I just say how happy I am that we are here, IRL. It has been, I'm so glad that this isn't a Zoom situation. That being said, man, I have a little bit of the jitters. I'm a little bit nervous. It's been like a long time since I've been in front of people. So I'm just acknowledging that. I'm acknowledging you, and I'm very happy to be here. The question was my journey. Oh, it's such a long story, but in a nutshell, I guess like many of us, partly because of the pandemic, I was given an opportunity to be with myself, and have to, and in those moments, face like who I was and what I was doing, and the addictions that I had towards all of the lifestyle that I'd grown accustomed to. I'd constructed almost this lifestyle in which I could always find dopamine hits throughout the day, and it was exciting, and I was all over the world. But then when I sat there with myself alone, there was this pit, this dread. And I've realized that I was totally disconnected. I was flying high, and I was ungrounded. And through a few years, a couple years at least, two or 3 years of deep inner spiritual work, I came to realize I needed to totally shed the ego identity that I'd created for 20 years, even though I was getting a lot of accolades and rewarded for it in the commercial world. On the spiritual level, I was really lacking. And that's when I just started to do the real hard work of coming back to self and spirit and ultimately earth.
That's great. Facing yourself is like the most difficult journey you can take. You really have to look in deep. And I wonder, you said it took a few years, but it's a lifelong journey.
Yeah, I mean, it's a, and also without the proper role models, you're sort of inventing it yourself. You're figuring it out yourself, and I had to start to surround myself with people I had to find myself surrounding myself with new people that were doing things differently, and surrounding myself with men who were embodying a different type of masculinity. And I had to say no for the first time in my life to bad behavior or mischievous behavior, or the social group, the friends group that didn't have my best interests in mind.
We were talking earlier about the need for role models in this space, and I think that's so important. Just really acknowledge and then follow, because it will change your life. I want to turn now to Earthspeed, which is the YouTube series you just launched, which is really incredible. And when I've been watching, I've noticed that there's this narrative arc that you follow where you sort of explore a specific philosophy like permaculture, and then highlight a mission-driven company that you're investing in. But I want to start with the name Earthspeed, because I really love it. I think it's so important to run your life at Earthspeed.
Earthspeed came to me, it didn't come to me, it was presented to me through my permaculture teacher. I'm permaculture certified, and at some point, during the course, he mentioned, it's kind of like at Earthspeed, it's at like the pace of Earth. And that just struck me. I was like, if we can get into the cycles and the flows and the rhythm of nature, and it's not necessarily fast. I mean, it spins pretty fast, but it's both as slow and as fast as it needs to be to accomplish the goal. And nothing's better than nature than accomplishing all of this wonder, and it does it at the right moment, in the right time. And so I started to think of myself as part of nature. Like, what do I do as a servant, as an emergent being of nature, and how am I serving that spirit by being in that cadence? So the slogan is in the cadence, a lifestyle in the cadence of nature. And that's what it is. It's how I live every day. It's the way I wake up and the way I approach my days. And that's what it is. It's like all these lifestyle platforms that want you to consume more, or, pump up your ego, to have the material goods to make you feel like you're relevant. But this is a different kind of lifestyle. It's a lifestyle that's heart-centered, nature-based, and community-centered as well.
Absolutely, and so much of what we've been doing over the last 50 or 60 years has not been at Earth speed. It's been at a very different speed.
Yeah, I mean, and to a fault, I guess sometimes I'm trying to find the balance between living at Earth speed and also being in the real world. You guys didn't notice because the team here is so awesome and they accommodated me, but I was an hour late today because I was literally in the garden and I was, doing things that I was present for. And I was like, wait, oh no, there's someone, is there a ring? And then I have my phone, oh, I'm late. So I'm finding the balance, and that's partly what, the show is how do you strike the balance between living in connection and then also being out in the world. So yes, to your point, we explore big ideas. So there's 3 categories: seed, soil, citizen. So seed, like the ideas, like what are these big ideas? So we bring in thought leaders to come in and like paint what's possible. And then we have business people who are entrepreneurs creating the businesses that expand, that scale these ideas out in the world. And then also just how are we living together as citizens? Like, how are we contributing to one another in community?
That's great. That's great. I want to talk about something you mentioned in Earthspeed, which is this desire to bring stories from the land. And I want to know what that means for you.
Yeah, you called me a farmer, and I appreciate that, but I don't think I deserve the title quite yet. I feel like I'm an apprentice. I'm an apprentice of what it means to live in harmony with nature as a servant of the land. And I now I hang out with other farmers, and I have a tremendous respect for what they do. And so what does it mean to tell stories of the land? It means to first listen, that's the first step, and really take account, like see what's happening, see what's naturally flowing. In permaculture, it's, you design from patterns to details, which means you first look at how things are operating, what naturally wants to happen, and then you come in and work with that natural flow. Because our instinct as, the colonialist mentality, the imperialist ego of humanity has always come and imposed its will on nature and wanted to control nature, and as opposed to working with it. And that's when you get, herbicides and pesticides and monocropping, because it's about control as opposed to being in flow with nature. So stories of the land are many, and it starts with just listening and seeing what the land wants to communicate.
Sure. I want to kind of ask you maybe a too blunt and maybe an uncomfortable question. So you're hanging out with all these farmers who know that you're a celebrity. You're still a celebrity.
They're figuring it out. A lot of them don't watch much television. They're too busy working.
But they're helping you along this journey that you're on, and you're getting respect from them. That's hard. I mean, I grew up in a rural area. It's hard to get respect from farmers.
Well, you know what it is? There is a class of humans who have been doing this work for so long, and I think now they're finally getting acknowledged, and it almost chokes me up. It's so sad because they're looking for the next generation to pass down this wisdom to, these skills to, and nobody's out there wanting to learn. Everybody wants to, be rich and famous, I guess. And so, yeah, I think they're hungry to find people who want to pass down this tradition and care about the earth in the way that they do, and respect what they do, and understand how hard it is. A lot of times, and I'm an environmentalist, and I've been doing environmentalism for a long time, and my old way of thinking was, let's prescribe our way out of this and tell everybody else what to do and legislate and put restrictions without truly respecting and understanding why people use pesticides, why they turn to chemical fertilizers, because that stuff is hard, and there's no financial incentive to these farmers to take the risk to do things differently, to do things organically or regeneratively or naturally. So, I'm an apprentice not only of the skills of farming, but I'm an apprentice of the spirit of farming, like what they actually have to do on a daily basis to actually bring us the sustenance and the food that we take for granted.
Absolutely. All the farmers that I've met from all over the world, they're the hardest working people. They're the smartest people. They have so much to do for all of us. And so you have this great opportunity here in Austin to learn from such a great food movement.
Oh, yes. It's true.
I want to go back to the series, and you say this really, for me, a quote that resonates, that you're stumbling your way through learning to farm, build a community, and being a better human. And I really love that. And I think that's something we all try, but how do these goals intersect? I mean, because it's a hard job. Like, you were out in the field today. Like, it's hard to do all of these things at once.
Yeah. Again, it's a spiritual thing for me to recognize the infinite nature of consciousness and nature itself. And, we, from our singular ego perspective, we want to get it all done while we're alive because we have this anxiety that we're going to die one day. So it's like if we have to do it all at once. But if you start to recognize that you are part of this infinite expansion, and what you do now actually has a real effect downstream, like down the road, for your kids, for your grandkids, for all of society and history. It just changes what you're doing. And so that way you don't have to rush to get it all done, but you can actually take your time and just do what's right. Do what's actually beneficial for not just the moment, but for long term. So it's like planting a seed for a tree whose shade you will never enjoy, but knowing that someone one day will do so.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've planted so many trees, I'm not going to see them when they are, real big, but it's still the right thing. So that's sort of what I've been learning about what is right, being in right relation with myself and nature, because I really see myself as a servant. Yeah, I guess a servant for nature's higher purpose, which is beauty, bounty, sustenance, all the things that it's known for.
I'm wondering, when starting Earthspeed, sharing this journey that you're on, which is a difficult one. It's a difficult one for all of us who, care about these issues, but you're sharing it very publicly. And that's got to have some, impact on your being.
Well, I'm used to that part. That's the part I got down.
But you're not playing somebody, you're being yourself.
Yeah, but I always bring a piece of myself to everything I do. I mean, that's part of, what acting is, performing is finding the truth within you that's authentic, that you can relate to the character or the story. And then you highlight that, because there's all of that in all of us. We have all of those layers. We get accustomed to who we think we are, the story we tell of ourselves. But if you can, we can all change the story. I mean, who hasn't, remember when you were in 8th grade and you're going to 9th grade and you're like, you know what? I'm going to change my whole wardrobe because nobody knows that I'm that nerdy kid who wears matching mustard yellow socks and a mustard yellow sweater, so I'm going to start dressing cool. But we have those transition moments every day. If you really let yourself, you can be you can change your identity, you can change how you express yourself. And I think it's important to always recognize that you have all of those layers within you.
Absolutely. That's really well said. So I want to turn now to your investment firm and all the great work that's happening there with Contra Ventures and how it sort of influenced Earthspeed and how it builds off Earthspeed. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So Contra Ventures is my impact company, and we're raising a fund right now, and we invest across 4 verticals. One is around personal development and the up-leveling of the individual, community, future of finance, so tools and platforms for more equity and access to the world's wealth, and then consumer goods. And we not only take into consideration ROI when making investments, but we also use another metric called YBM, which is yields beyond money. And really that's that intangible, ineffable aspect to a company when we sit face to face with the founder and we look them in the eye, we look them in the heart, and we see, like, what are you really doing here? Are you committed to the mission, or are you just trying to exploit this category? What is the business model? Is it a long-term business model, or is it a pump and dump business model? And what is the impact of the business over time? So we look at all of that before we make an investment. And then Earthspeed really was born of our desire to support our founders. We wanted to add value to what they're doing because we believe in them so much, and we recognize that one thing that they have a hard time with is getting their message out and finding publicity. And frankly, a lot of people look to me to do that,
Sure.
And that's one reason why we have so many opportunities and so much deal flow, because I'm blessed with having an opportunity to, have a front-facing, offering, essentially.
Absolutely.
So we started Earthspeed not only to tell stories from the land, which is an authentic expression of my lifestyle every day on the farm, but also highlighting the portfolio companies that I invest in and how they're related to the lifestyle. Because they are, for example, talking about big ideas, we brought in Scott Harrison of Charity Water. Charity Water is an incredible water organization bringing water to people around the world, people in need. And then we also highlighted Heartwater, which is one of our portfolio companies, and they're actually capturing the rain and doing rainwater capture for consumer water products.
Yeah.
So it's both. And then on top of that, I'm building a rainwater catchment system on the land. So you get to learn about how to do it yourself and be self-sufficient, self-reliant. You learn about businesses that are scaling that out in the world and using these technologies, which is the most sustainable way to actually harvest water. And then you have the big idea of it as well. So it's sort of the whole spectrum of what I'm up to, personally, communally, and then on like a citizen level.
Yeah, it's very cool. There's a lot to unpack here. I want to get back to this idea of how you invest in personal development, because like most impact firms and most venture firms, that's not something they're really thinking about in a concrete way. Why did you decide to do that? Yeah. I mean, they should be, right?
So the verticals, we took a long time to actually construct our sort of philosophy. And it really came out of the past several years of what I'd been going through, because I realized what I needed was to up-level myself, to be a better person, change the way I see the world so that the things that I do, the things that I build, the things that I invest in reflect a higher state of awareness and consciousness. So we believe that fundamentally, better humans make a better world. So we need to invest in tools, businesses, and companies that are helping people be the best they can be. And that includes nutrition. That includes, having the right nutrient balance within the body and the brain, so you're making better decisions. Your decisions aren't compromised by malnutrition or by ego. You're not, you've done the work enough that you're not just striving for greatness or status, but you're actually doing something in connection with community. So the individual is, so important. And that includes the founders that we invest in. We want to make sure that they've done a certain amount of work so that they're driven by the right goals.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
It's really cool. It's such a different way of thinking, and that gets me to the name that you chose for the venture firm, which is Contra. Can you talk about what Contra means? So
Contra is a nickname that I've had for a long time, and it means to go against. I'm sort of a rebel, and when I was about 20, I had a Brazilian girlfriend who used to say "do contra," and I was like, "What does that mean?" She's like, "You're, contrarian," and it just sort of stuck, and I kind of liked it. And my partner Bamanuzi is also Brazilian. She's like, "I love it. That's the name." I was like, "Really? That's like a disparaging name." And she's like, "No, it's exactly your spirit, because we do things differently. We push against the norms. We're always looking for alternative ways to approach something." And so, yeah, I think it does the trick at this point.
I think we need more contrarians in the world right now. Anyway, can you you talked about some of the companies like Heartwater that you're investing in. What are the others that you sort of have put a lot of time into?
Well, since we have one of our portfolio companies in the audience, Zach at Seeds, it's a financial, they basically create financial models for investors, advisors. So advisors who are managing a bunch of money, giving them the opportunity to find ways to invest in sustainable businesses, so that they actually can help their clients find more sustainable ways to invest, aligning their investments with their values. And remarkably, financial advisors don't know how to communicate that to their clients. Their clients want to do the right thing, but financial advisors just don't know how to communicate it in an effective way. So what Seeds is doing is actually giving them, basically handing them, just lobbing the ball in, so that they can actually communicate better with their clients on how best to make sustainable investments.
It's such a different sort of arena than 10 or 12 years ago when, we didn't know how to do this well, when VCs were really just throwing money at anything. Yeah,
and frankly, many of them are lazy. They just go with what works, and, they want to see the right returns, so they'll just take the easy road, the well-established road. And really what Seeds is doing is creating a way for them to have a win-win financially. So finding the companies that actually are doing well financially and are also within the ESG and sustainable realm, and then they're able to look good with their clients, and then their clients can do the right thing and feel good about it.
I mean, that's what's important. It's making a profit by doing good.
Precisely.
I want to go back to talk about some of the work that you've been doing with Contra in terms of yield beyond money and what that actually means. I mean, you explained it, but do you think this is a term, that concept, a practice that other firms will start taking on?
I hope so. I mean, I think it's, what it does is it reframes our approach. And I read a really incredible book, which I highly recommend to everybody, called Sacred Economics by Charles Eisenstein. And that really changed the way I looked at my own relationship to money and wealth. And I realized that I had a dysfunctional relationship to money at best. But we all have a default education to think that money is the goal. And we put that on its head. Money isn't our goal, it's the result. Right? Our goal is something larger, something bigger than money. And money really is a tool to accomplish our goals. But we have it flipped. We think that money is the ultimate goal. And so we say, money is a tool, and the spirit of the tool is determined by the hand of the user. So once we start really looking at what we're actually trying to accomplish, what are our goals, what do we want to build out in the world, what reflects our values and our spirit, then we can start to use money as the tool to go build that, as opposed to looking at money as the ultimate, accomplishment. So YBM really is a reflection of that spirit. It's the yields that are beyond the money piece.
It's really flipping our normal paradigm on its head and continuing to do that.
Yeah, and not to be naive. Oh, we don't need money. A world without money, and that's unrealistic. We are in a money system. We have to honor and recognize that. That's how this whole world runs, through money. But it's just a personal reframe. Are we trying to get the money? Because once you have a bank full of cash, it won't make you happier, I promise you. But you can use that money and you can continue to invest in growing a world that will make us happy, that will be fair and equitable and peaceful and beautiful and full of abundance. And that's just a fact.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking, I agree with you. We were talking about conscious capitalism earlier. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I think this fits into that model very, very clearly.
Yeah, I mean, frankly, it's just another catchy little phrase.
No, I like yield beyond money much better, though. It brings some farming terms in there.
Well, I like it because it brings money into the equation. It's like money is part of this, right? But we're going beyond just the money piece, but also bringing money in, like recognizing that is it's such a money is a great tool that we have created that does. It's fungible, like we can exchange disparate values across time and space with each other. I mean, it's quite a unique tool, and it needs to be perfected, I think, and big fan of Bitcoin, shout out. But, at the same time, like we do need to recognize the corruptive nature of money when it becomes, because it's abstract, we can like project all of our everything onto it, and it becomes all these things that are that are not useful, I think, for us as a community.
And when you're talking to the firms that you're investing in, you have to go through this whole sort of learning process with them. And I'm wondering if you can sort of, take me through what that looks like.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a long time. It takes a very, very long time to get to know the hearts of the founders, and then also do the data analysis of the business, and then find the right blend, the right balance between believing in our founder and what they're capable of, and knowing that and many of them are startups, the challenges that they're facing, trying to do things differently, and change the paradigm. And then also the realities of the fact that they need to stay afloat, and they need to actually make money. And so, hopefully we add value to the companies in helping them, thread the needle. And and we're partners. We see that as a partnership.
Right.
It's not we're investing and then we make a phone call. Hey, did you make money yet? Pay me. It's more of a relationship, a partnership, and then bringing them into Earth Speed and talking about how we can tell the story of what they're doing and create content around that so that they can get their message out. So it's a long-term relationship.
I ask everyone this, at least over the last 23, 24 months, whatever month of the pandemic we're in. How do you think the pandemic has affected mission-driven businesses? Do you see more of them? Do you see less? Do you see different kinds of businesses?
I don't know. I do believe that the pandemic was an opportunity for all of us. I mean, as tragic as it has been, as challenging as it has been a great pattern disruptor. We shaken out of our routine to a positive degree, where we can actually start to do. It's given us an opportunity to do things that we never thought we could.
Right.
And so I think there's a lot of people reinventing themselves. I think sustainability and altruistic companies are now given permission to do things differently and take a lurch forward. And as you see some of the establishment systems starting to break down, and we're realizing that they're not as inevitable as we thought they were, it's giving a lot of innovation an opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, I think we saw things really being built on a house of cards, and we need bricks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah. I want to go back to Earth Speed because I've had a lot of fun watching it. You're in your third or fourth episode right now? Third. I mean, it's like asking you to pick your favorite child or dog. Like, do you have a favorite sort of part of the story that you're telling?
Well, we just put out a little short today because I'm going to start doing little tutorials on the channel. So I teach you how to make a salad.
Nice.
And I like to cook, so I'm just going to say, check out the latest 60-second recipe.
That's great.
This is appropriate for the future of food, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Everyone needs to learn how to make a salad.
Check this out, the future of food, salad.
No, I love it. So the way Food Tank was connected to you was through the United Nations Environment Program. We're very excited about the work that they do. They've been a great partner to us. And so I sort of want to end on your role as this regional Goodwill ambassador for them, for North America. You help them launch Clean Seas, which I mentioned before, and that's a campaign to end marine plastic pollution. And you're one of the co-founders behind the Lonely Whale projects. What inspired you to get into these initiatives? I know you've always been an environmentalist. I know it's something really important to you, but it's also like a different thing to get involved with the United Nations initiative.
Yeah, I've been in sustainability for 20 years, I guess, and in order to stay with it, in order to stay engaged and inspired to continue to do this work, despite the fact that you look out in the world and you're like, is any of this making a difference? It feels like it's not coming, it's not happening, right? We're still polluting the ocean after all these years. There's still climate challenges. So in order to stay engaged, I have to continue to reinvent myself and to rethink my relationship to the challenge. And so when I guess about 10 years now, I started looking at the oceans, and this is before the oceans were,
a thing.
A thing. They weren't in the public conversation. It was all climate. And I'm like, well, what about the oceans? It's like the biggest thing on the earth, and it's so important. And so I recognize it as a communications challenge and opportunity. Mm-hmm. Because the ocean is so abstract, it's so vast, it's out there, it's scary. We've all seen Jaws. So it's like, okay, how do we get people to connect with this thing out there and feel a sense of empathy when we don't interact with it, every day. It's not something, the climate maybe you have a daily experience with with the weather, but the ocean was just out there somewhere else, out of sight, out of mind. And for me, to help the planet, to help the earth, it's all about connection. If you can't connect, you can't care. So started Lonely Whale as a way to bring people closer to the world's ocean and bond with each other to, to support the ocean's health.
That's so great. So, you have this audience here in the room. You have an audience that's listening via our live stream. I wonder, as somebody who's been on this journey, what kind of advice would you give to somebody who's interested in these issues, but overwhelmed by them too, right? Like when you look at the ocean or the climate crisis, so big, so vast. Mm-hmm. What advice would you want to give them to get started?
Take a breath and recognize that self-care is earth care. You are nature. You are an emergent being from the earth. And when you take care of yourself, you are taking care of nature. And so before you feel a moral outrage and you have to do something big and louder than everyone else so that you can virtue signal that you care, recognize that first, get yourself in order. Make sure that you're thinking right, make sure you're healthy, make sure you're eating right, and you exercise, so that when you make the decision on what to do, it's the right thing. And it doesn't have to be grand. Like there's an epidemic of grandiosity thanks to social media. Everyone feels like they have to be bigger than Greta Thunberg in order to actually be effective. You don't. You can start small, be local, be as small as you need to be effective. That's my advice.
I love it. Get yourself in order so you can change your part of the world. This has been a wonderful conversation, Adrian. I'm so glad you were here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Round of applause.